It is announcement after announcement today, guys. So we have Gotrek and Felix, or which I've actually heard is Gotrek. I didn't know that. I'm going with Gotrek until you guys correct me in the comments below. But the new Old Friends DLC has been announced, and it's coming at us from a pretty interesting angle. It's very similar to the Grombrindal DLC from the Ages of Old and Total War Warhammer 1. So the way that Gotrek and Felix are going to work is they're going to be legendary heroes, the legendary Slayer himself, for the Empire. They will be added into the game. It calls it a DLC, and I think that that's kind of a weird usage of the word, acronym for that matter. Essentially, the way that this is going to work is in order to get access to Gotrek and Felix, you're going to have to get the White Dwarf that comes out September 20th. I will be getting it regardless because new Dark Angel stuff is supposed to be announced that day, so I'm going to be stoked as shit. And you'll get a card and you can go ahead and pop it into the game. Otherwise, you can wait until October 20th, the month after, and it will just be unlocked for free on Total War Access, just like the Anniversary, Regiments of Renown, and so on and so forth. So, if you miss it, you can still get it, and get it for free for that matter without paying like the $5, $8 that a White Dwarf is. For me, that's awesome because I love White Dwarf, so it's going to be pretty hot and heavy. Like I said, access from October 17th onward. So you can go about this either getting the White Dwarf or waiting there, waiting for what's it called, a month to get it through access. So let's see here. The way that this legendary faction, or I'm sorry, these legendary heroes are going to work are a little bit different, right? Gotrek and Felix are initially recruited from their quest marker as a pair. Gotrek effectively functions as a lord, and Felix is a hero that accompanies him. This means that they can function as an army just by themselves, and you can send them off around the world on adventures of their own, or supply them with troops and have them function in the same way as your other armies, although with a rather powerful pair of characters leading it. They might be swords for hire, but they have a certain moral code and will only enter the employ of Empire, Batonia, and Dwarf factions. So I amend my previous statement and saying it's a new Empire DLC, so I apologize for that. But if you so much as like a rat from a distance, don't ask. If you look so much as a rat. Gotrek and Felix will only stay with your faction for too long, around 20 turns or so before Gotrek gets itchy feet and his death wish commands him to seek adventure elsewhere. So you can get these guys in your army. They can basically be like a Green Knight for you for around 20 turns, and they're going to seemingly kick some serious ass. I have not seen these characters in the game yet, so hopefully we will get some sort of, I don't know, games or Creative Assembly early access to these guys, and we can talk about them a little bit more. But unfortunately, I don't have much more to give you guys. It will unfortunately have to go through White Dwarf first. So it's the 6th of September now. In 14 days, that will be coming out. If you have a subscription to White Dwarf, you should probably be getting this around September 17th or so. But the other big announcement today is, boom, we got patch season. So with this is the new patch they're calling the Empire Undivided update. And guys, this is a dense set of patch notes because I'm so pressed for time in trying to get this out in conjunction with the Warpstone Cup. I'm so sorry. I do not have my typical Word document where I break down what was buffed, what was nerfed with the most recent balance patch. So I'm so sorry. I feel like I let everyone down with that. I'm in a huge time crunch as it is. So I'm trying to get this out so you guys at least have some fun, cool news to take a look at here. So with the Hunter and the Beast, we get the Empire Overhaul. And my bros, it is such an overhaul. For one, the territories are completely reworked. So Empire now gets 12 new regions. And on top of that, you get some different variations to these regions. So the Forest of Lorelorn, which we talked about in hopes of it coming in for the Empire rework, looks like it will be in the Empire rework here. It's next to Nordland and plays host to the Wood Elf faction of the same name, while the Misty Hills north of Midland and Solon in the south, Balthazar Gelt's new home province, are subject to greenskin incursions. So if you're playing as the Empire, you're no longer just going to deal with Empire on Empire action. You're going to have Wood Elf play in there. You're going to have some greenskins. The Beastmen are already going to be present. You're going to have the Vampire Coast. You're going to have Norska and Chaos dealing with stuff. So you're going to have a much more, I guess, various amount of enemies to deal with, or variety of enemies to deal with. In addition, we get the new forts, which is sick. Helmgart, Fort Sol, and Fort Berges. whatever. Guys, I'm from Southern California. The only thing I know that starts with a B and ends with S is burgers. So you can help me in the comments section to pronounce that properly. I know you will, and I'm so sorry for butchering it. I usually spend a lot of time on my pronunciations. But again, press for time. So we're going to get special battles, very similar to the fort system, or I'm sorry, the gate system we get in Ulthuan. And these forts will have a whole different mechanic than the gate system. Worry not. We will be going in on that deep on Monday as we go over the Empire rework, and I'll kind of showcase it to you guys. I will actually be starting my campaign streams on Monday in the earlier afternoon. I'll be gone all weekend. So right when I get home, I'm basically going to eat a Subway sandwich and start up a stream for you guys. We'll be playing as the mighty Balthazar Gelt and the Golden Order. That is the name of his new faction. He'll be moved to the what is a destroyed faction, Solend, but his base is in Fildorf. So Fildorf will now have access, or will be the capital of Solend, the what's it called, electoral province that was destroyed by Gorbad Ironclaw in the lore. So it's great to kind of see this added to the game. It is a little off base for lore, you know, it's supposed to be destroyed at this time, but I really don't care. It's cool. It's awesome to see Solend added because they have a cool color scheme. They have like a rich gold and deep black. So deep black is only deep. So a rich gold and a black color scheme. That they're very different and very cool. And it should give you a different power base in the Empire kind of old world, because you're going to deal with a lot of greenskin infested region of Solend to the east. So you're going to deal with a lot of greenskin aggression right out the gate. The tech tree for the Empire has been completely reworked. We've kind of taken a look at that a little bit so far, and you'll see that on, I believe it's Sunday, when I go over the Marcus Wolfhart campaign. You'll see the Empire tech tree as a whole, and you can see some of the things that have changed. And honestly, it's way better. It's so much crisper and cleaner. It's been categorized, so it's way nicer to kind of go through. As a whole, the Imperial Authority system, and thus the Empire Office system, is completely revamped and gone. So, as it says, Empire Offices are gone. So how this works now is you have Prestige, Fealty, and the ability then to summon the Elector Counts. Your Prestige kind of acts as a currency, and you use it to more or less influence the other Elector Counts in court, very much in the same way that you have the intrigue in court capability of the High Elves. So it's a very interesting mechanic to kind of spice up the Empire gameplay with using an already present system. I'm totally fine with it. It's a cool way to kind of, what's it called? A cool way to kind of spice up the Empire gameplay without going too crazy. At the same time, you have your authority, if it's high or it's low, has different advantages here. So take a look. So high authority grants enhanced growth, tax rate, and increases the chance of improved fealty from the elector counts. Low authority incurs the reverse, plus reduced public order and leadership. So you use prestige to increase your imperial authority because you're constantly kind of winning battles for the empire. You're doing all these things that kind of overall contribute towards the empire as a whole. And then you can use that prestige to help balance out your fealty. Now, fealty basically is on a scale from 1 to 10, and as you increase your fealty with individual electoral provinces and thus their electoral counts, you can actually bring them into your faction easier. You can confederate them by increasing their fealty. You can look for certain individuals that have low fealty, or for example, that have no fealty, quote unquote Manfred von Karstein, and you can just go and attack and destroy their location. Then you appoint a new elector count of that location. So you get a lot of really cool stuff going on with the fealty system that you can then further influence with summon the elector counts. The new elector counts panel displays the characters which occupy elector count roles and tracks their fealty towards the empire, like I was saying, on a scale from 1 to 10. Should you own an Empire State's capital city, you can assign a character as its elector count, and thus getting access to the legendary Runefang, the Ostermark Runefang, the Troll Cleaver in this case, and grants access to an elite, unique Empire unit variant. Ostermark grants the Knights of the Everlasting Light. So, as you unlock these individual elector counts, you get their Runefang, and you then get their Empire unit that they correlate to. Ostermark, again, Troll Cleaver, and Knights of Everlasting Light, respectively. Then you also get political events, and these political events can really help or influence your prestige, your authority, your economy, fealty, elector counts, everything. So you go through a little bit more of, I guess you could call them just dilemmas, the typical thing that we see and you can kind of choose who you side with in certain situations, thus influencing fealty. So it's, you know, it behooves you to really bolster the fealty of individuals that are already high with you and disenfranchise those who have low fealty already, which you're probably going to have to go to war with to bring into the fold. So it's a way more fun and cohesive way to play the Empire campaign. That's not just simply, okay, I'm going to conquer everyone and I'm going to look for the one guy who wants to be my friend. It's usually Telebuckland, and I'm going to confederate with him, and it's just going to be a shit show. So you get a really different and a way more fun and cohesive campaign. I'm so about it. Honestly, of everything in the DLC, this is the most fun to me. I've played the other campaigns and I love them. They're great, but this is so awesome to just play Empire in the way that I think it always should have been. Of course, in Total War Warhammer 1, I would have told you the exact same thing because that was just, you know, symptom of the times. But you also get Sylvania and Marienburg are part of this whole situation, so you have to consider how you're going to bring them into the fold. Sylvania, you're going to have to go to war. Marienburg, are you going to go to war, or are you going to just try to use diplomacy to bring them in? So you get a lot to do, with the Empire campaign that isn't just simply conquering everyone you take a look at. So be mindful of that. It's a really fun system, and it's going to be pretty goddamn awesome. In addition, we get a little Slann rework here too, right? So our various flavors of Rainbow Sherbet will get a little bit of a touch-up. So lore choices. Slann no longer wield mixed lores of magic. When a Slann is invoked through the Rite of Sotek, the player will receive a dilemma, offering a choice of which lore the Slann will yield. Fire, life, high, and light. Then, of course, your model will then reflect that. Generational traits. So basically, you're choosing whether or not they're second, third, or fourth spawnings. You were able to do this. I don't remember if you could do this in 8th edition, but in 6th edition, I know for sure when you chose your Slann, you were able to select which spawning they were from, which was really cool. It was a way to make them a stronger wizard, have better combat stats, just depending on what it was. Like, for instance, the only first spawning Slann that exists anymore is Croak. You couldn't choose the first spawning, but second, third, and fourth, you could. It was a really awesome way to do things. Then rank increases. Key techs and buildings can increase the starting recruitment rank of any Slann gained through Rites of Awakening. Also, we get the new multiplayer unit cap system. This will work very similar to Shetland Apache's King's Cup rules. They kind of pulled information from those rules. They asked Turin, they asked myself, and a number of other prominent individuals in the tournament community what works best for you guys. So they've limited certain variants of units, like for instance here, Stegadon unit variants and Stegadon character mounts. They've prevented, I think it's the use of Regiments of Renown is relegated to 3, I believe, and other portions of the roster. So I think like Missile Cav are limited to 6, which is again the same rules that we already use. So it's a really awesome way to just have it innately in matchmaking. So if you go to press quick battle right now, this is going to be present. You don't have to worry. It'll always be there for you. Some other big fixes here. They've changed some of the AI. The Vampire Coast factions can now recruit at sea using the flagship expansion stance. Tweaks and improvements to the visuals on the campaign map. And if you haven't noticed this, the game feels like it runs way faster than it did at launch, and the exact same way Total War Warhammer 1 did. I'm kind of dreading Total War Warhammer 3's like first couple months, because I know it's just going to have tons of memory issues in the same way that 2 did and 1 did when they first came out. But Total War Warhammer 2 runs way smoother than it ever has, because they've just they've continuously tweaked and fixed that shit. Some other big fixes here. There's a big one that I wanted to look at. It's down further, I think. Philip Billings has had quite enough of the mosquitoes, snakes, and angry tropical Norskins attacking the New World colonies and has headed back to the Old World for a well-earned break. Fix multiple end turn crashes. Fix the end turn timer. Let's see here. Players no longer charged for searching ruins when a Skaven settlement is discovered. That's just kind of nice. I didn't know that wasn't actually a thing. They revamp Lizardmen and Vampire Counts building trees and unit unlocks, which is cool. Kind of shift some of those around. I believe some of the Vampire Count stuff moved to an earlier tier that was barred by later tiers. Let me see here. Minimum research rate is now 5. I didn't know that was a thing. Weird Crested Skink Chiefs will now properly spawn with traits when spawned with Rite of Primeval Glory. Nolan Gunnery School Landmark now grants access to artillery unit recruitment. Great cannons at tier 3. That is very nice. It's going to be very similar to what you get with Nagaroth, and how Nagaron, the Black Citadel, allows you to get your Black Art of Nagaroth at tier 3, which is quite cool. Blazing Suns chapter has moved from tier 4 to tier 3, and the army requirements for the Blazing Sun has been removed, so you get access to them quickly. A lot of these, I'm sure, are very important to your specific campaigns, the ones you like to play. So go ahead and just scrub through these. Take a look at some big ones here. There's one big one that I wanted to look at. It has to do with the way that a lot of AI fixes were made. Here it is. So low quality single entity units such as Bastillodon will now take less damage in the auto resolver, which is great news. If any of you start with a single entity unit in your campaign, you'll notice that single entity unit will no longer get focused down in auto resolves, which is great. Fix an issue with damaged single entity units getting damaged excessively in the auto resolver. And fixed, yeah, that's what I was looking for. Fix an issue where missile units that ran out of ammo were able to return fire on enemy missile units, which was being used in the auto-resolver calculation. This is what made missile units so strong when you clicked auto-resolve. If you notice that if you were to take a unit of just a 20 Glade Guard and go fight anything, you'd almost always win because of that bug. So that has been fixed. So hopefully we'll get a much more balanced and better auto-resolver. And they've done this every patch. So I'm really excited to see how this plays out. Let's see here. Difficulty bug fixes, improvements, line of sight decrease. AI units passively gain more experience each turn for difficulty levels above normal. That's shit. That's going to be terrible. I don't actually ever mess with DirectX 12 because it has such a fixed memory leak in DirectX 12. So I don't really touch DirectX 12 too much. Will now display blood in his porthole. A lot of porthole fixes happened. For instance, I think it's like the Shadow Walker's going to use the correct porthole. Amethyst Wizard as well. A lot of that action happened as well. Audio bugs and fixes, miscellaneous bugs and fixes. But one of the biggest things here is the balance changes. Now, I can't go through these with too much of a fine-tooth comb because I haven't looked at too much of them. From my experience, almost everything in every single army has gotten a melee defense nerf and a melee attack buff. So fights should start to, I want to say, go a little bit quicker. Things are going to get hit more often because everything is going to hit them more often, and their melee defense is going to be lower, so they will be hit more often, if that makes sense. So everything has pretty much, for the most part, gotten a pretty big nerf or buff to both of those things. And a lot of the leaderships have gotten a lot of reduction in cost in almost every single faction here. Take a look at this. Every single character, for the exception of the Warhorse Prophetess and the Damsel, have all gotten reduction in their cost. But Prophetess and Damsels have gotten increases in their cost. It's the same thing here. Beastlord, Khazrak, Morgur, reduction in cost. Almost all of the lords have gotten reductions. A lot of the larger creatures have had a lot of balances with them, a lot of balance stuff being done with them. You can see here Minotaurs have gotten quite a bit of action that has happened to them as well, increasing especially the Butchers of Kalkengard. I mean, you want that walk speed. Everyone wants that walk speed. One thing I've noticed, and I was going to ask someone who knows a little bit more about this, and this is a bit of an overhaul and change with the dwarfs, because the dwarfs have such an issue with getting bulldozed by large creatures. Hit reaction ignore chance, and knock interrupt ignore chance. So almost everything in the dwarf line has gotten an increase to both of these variables, meaning that the chance that they get ignored, the chance that they ignore a hit reaction or a knock interrupt, I think has been increased, meaning that they will not get knocked over as much, or they'll ignore having their hitbox, or hit animation disrupted. So that's what I'm assuming this does. If you know for sure, or you know someone in the modding community that knows what these variables are, please go ahead and let me know in the comments below. I was not 100% sure jumping into this video, but almost every single character has had that kind of tweaked for them in the dwarf patch here. In addition, a lot of changes to all of the shooting units. There we go. For the dwarfs. A lot of AP and projectile damage increase for almost everything. Even the Quarrelers, which don't do AP damage. Well, yeah, never mind. They do have an AP variable in there, but I don't know how much. But Rangers, again, have an AP increase here. Bugman's Rangers. So everything has gotten a little boost on both their melee attacks, their AP, their reload times. Rangers got a slight increase to their cost as well. Taking a look at the Empire, almost everything for their characters got a substantial reduction in cost. Some of them got an increase. There it is. Yeah, Empire Captain got a little boost there for Warhorse. He now costs more. Same thing with the Warrior Priest and a Warhorse. And Empire Wizards as well got an increased cost. Pegasi for the Jade and Grey Wizard can no longer hide in forests. And the Amber Wizard Imperial Griffin has gotten a nice increase on health for Ultra. It says at the very top of this, Ultra single entity units got an increase in health to balance things out. But again, the same stuff. Melee attack and melee defense decreases and increases across the board. Outriders and Pistolers fixed an issue where reloading transitions were capping rate of fire. So, moving through here, again, the same thing. Like I said, almost every single character has gotten a massive or some sort of minor reduction in their cost. And again, melee attacks and melee defense stuff all across the board. Giants got a nice reduction in their cost. Doom Divers got a slight increase to their cost as well. High Elves, you know I care the most about High Elves. And Alarielle, unfortunately, got a slight increase to her cost on her Elven Steed. But as a whole, everything else got a reduction in their cost or a slight increase here and there. Teclis on his Barb Steed gets a +5. The Princess can do a little bit more projectile mass. So her bolts will do a little bit more size. Fireborn got a reduction in their mass, but again, everything else, melee defense and attack increases and decreases across the board, with the Storm Riders and the Grey getting a reduction in cost by 50, which is good because I didn't really ever see them too much. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen the Grey in a competitive match, ever. Maybe in like one of the ever chosen they came out. Lizardmen as a whole, same kind of shebang here. The Salamanders got a little bit of a tweak as well. Their splash damage against, or now use splash attacks against small targets, -8 to AP projectile damage, 8 to base projectile, +8 to base projectile damage, +3 base explosion, -2 AP to base explosion, and they got a little increase in their turn speed, so they can juke a little bit harder. But overall, their armor has dropped to probably fall in line a little bit more with the Razordons, which have a high armor and high melee defense. A lot of tweaks across all of the large creatures, the dinosaurs, getting a reduction in their armor, Stegodons, Anti-Stegodons, and Thunderous ones. Stegodons got a small reduction in their cost. But again, melee attack, melee defenses. Norska's actually got, for its units, or for its characters, actually got mainly increases. So Wolfric on a Chariot has a 50 and a Mammoth +200 in cost. Chieftain, though, is -100. Mammoth +200 in cost. Feral Mammoth now has forest terrain penalties for being a large entity and a -2 to melee defense, which is good. The Feral Mammoth had such a huge advantage. I mean, I think it was like 1,800 points. It was so cheap for what it was, and it could do so much. So I think they try to curb it back a little bit, try to bring it a little bit more in line with the other Mammoths. The other Mammoths, though, did get a reduction in their health and those same force penalties, as well as a reduction to their melee defense. But melee, the Soul Crusher got an increase to its melee attack. Again, though, same shebang. We're talking about that melee attack and melee defense buff and debuff across the line here. All Giants got a -100 to their cost, it looks like. And Gaven, the same thing here. Now, the Warlock Master and Doomflayer, Ikit Claws Doomflayer, got a little bit different of a situation. Now uses large entity ground stat effect group. Removed Scurry Away. Same thing here with the Warlock Master. We got a slight little buff to his little melee defense there. But Assassin, Plague Priest, reduction in their cost. Quick Head Taker, Ikit Claw, Craven Tail, all reduced their cost. Well, the difference between cost and multiplayer cost, I think it's the same thing. They're just a typo there. Warlock Engineer got a slight increase in cost there as well. But again, the usual kind of action. And to not beat a dead horse here, it's going to be pretty much the same thing across the boot. All the legendary lords and characters got a pretty hard tweaking and a reduction to their cost, and everything else got a melee attack and melee defense buff here and there. Some stuff did get a little bit more and has a little bit more of a focus on a nerf, but again, I am so sorry for not being able to go through this as fine-toothed as a comb as I usually do. Like I said, just so crunched for time right now, guys. I deeply apologize. But please go and check out these patch notes. It can really help you out. I mean, Deliverance of Itza got itself a little bit of a increase in nerf here. So increase to its power cost and a reduction to its AP damage. So it will be not doing as much damage as it did before, which is kind of nice. Summon Unbinding is now split into 3 phases with different colors. Blue for stable, orange for weak, red for critical. So when you see summons now, you can tell exactly which stage they're at rather than kind of guessing based off of their health loss. That's a pretty big, huge change. So be aware of that when you're playing your games and you do summon things. You, even as a player that summons them, can see exactly what's going on, when and where. So as a whole, please go ahead and check out these patch notes. Make sure that they kind of play in line with what you like to play in the competitive multiplayer ring, or which campaigns that this applies to. This might be really good for you and the way that you're playing your campaign. You might have just started a new one, and this gives you incentive to restart, or you're about to start all the new stuff with the new campaigns coming out. Also, they did a really big hats off to Mixu, Drunk Flamingo, Gigas, Tankbuster, Gigaus, Zarkis, all the individuals who make a lot of these great mods. They did a lot of framework to kind of help benefit them. Excuse me, guys. A lot of this will apply pretty much to what they look for and what they know. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Don't forget to check the Warpstone Cup coming out at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard. That's in an hour. But as always, again, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one and take care.